we're rolling.
So Riv, we're quite a few videos in now into this series, right? We've spoken a lot about strategy. We've spoken about creative directions and mood boards. We've even spoken about, helping clients to buy into the creative vision that you have for the brand, right? But something that we've not yet spoken about, which I think is a really key point, is what actually goes into creating a brand that not just lives on a computer screen. It's not just for the now, but it's creating a brand that is credible enough so that it can stand the test of time and it can take the brand where they need to go throughout all those different inflection points, right? What better way to show what goes into creating credible brands than actually walking through the Airhive case study, right? So before you jump in, maybe I can just quickly ask you though, like credibility, why is that so important in, not just branding in general, but particularly for the industry that we work in?
I think when we think about credibility, at least with a lot of the founders, teams, or those with like really technical backgrounds that we come into contact with, if we ask them what credibility means to them, they start going to the figures, the numbers, the results. And oftentimes we think credibility happens a lot further upstream than that. It is all around signals. It is all around how do we get that gut feeling, and the keyword feeling, of credibility that earns you the right to then have that conversation where you can give them all of those various proof points as well. I just want to take it right back actually to how they used to present and how they came to us when we first found them 3 or 4 years ago now. The first piece that we worked on with Airhive was their pitch deck. This is when they were a pre-seed company. I think there was only 4 strong at the time. And as you pointed to at the beginning, they are now 30 people strong. They've just made their first acquisition within the DAC space. They've got a massive project kicking off with Union DAC. They're completing their Series A round. They won or became top finalist in the X Prize Top 20. That's Elon Musk's foundation around innovation as well. So fair to say, they've made their mark or dent in the world already, and it's just the beginning. But yeah, this is how they came to us. They had a pitch deck which kind of looked scrappy and bootstrapped, which is exactly what it should have been at that point. But they were ready to start leveling things up a notch. They wanted to feel more established. They wanted to feel more serious. They didn't want this to feel like, or their technology to feel like it was just an idea, which is currently what that felt like. So how do they build that inevitability? How do they build credibility from the get-go with investors was really what the conversations were geared around at this point. You can see a quick before and after here, but I'll kind of switch screens to this one here. You can see some of the different ingredients that went into this. Some of those being kind of illustrations to communicate how their technology works in a simple manner. Others kind of more visual, motion, graphic-based animations that was somewhat abstract, just to kind of signal what they're about. They have lots of particles and fluidization process within their technology. So we kind of had these standout visuals for them as well. And then not to miss just here, some of the tangible side of things, including things such as 3D renders, 3D render animations as well as photography in the lab and of their technology to really capture the progress that they've made to date. So when we was doing the pitch deck for them, part of that was a mini kind of branding exercise. So we worked on the fly alongside the pitch deck to create a brand which stood out in a category. Again, from our previous videos, you've seen more on that where we do a snapshot of the competitors. In this instance, they were all following the unwritten rules. They're all blue, kind of looking up to the big kind of dog in the category, so to speak, and all kind of doing a scrappy iteration or copy of that. So we really wanted to signal that they were different from the get-go, which is what we did with bringing their brand up to scratch and making it feel a bit more polished and refined. After that, we actually helped them with an interim website. So whilst we were working on a larger website, which captured their value in a much more impactful way, We worked with them on just a one pager so they could get up and running fast. This is where, okay, we've done their pitch deck now. We needed continuity and consistency between all of their touch points. What we were afraid of was they have a great conversation with an investor. The pitch deck looks great, but then they go over to the website and are second guessing if they're in the right place to begin with. Or indeed, do these guys have their stuff together or not? Because it seemed like they did from the investor meeting. But now I've come over here, they look like a totally different company. It's kind of diminishing some of the trust that was probably gained in the meeting there. So that was the interim website purpose.
It's almost like by being consistent, you are naturally therefore becoming, coming across as more credible. And now the conversations start much further down the line, right? And how many times have we seen that unfold with our clients, Riv? This sort of, this signal piece. What signals are you giving out, right?
Yeah. And it all comes down to kind of this graphic, really. One of the key things that we see over and over again is companies that have amazing technology. There's amazing minds behind them, founders, teams. They have a great vision. They do great actions. When we talk about the action piece, we're referring to how they innovate with their products, how they create value through the service or product that they have, the technology they have. And then the signal piece lets them down. So they actually have credibility behind them if we scratch beneath the surface. But from the outside, they are not signaling as such. And the sad and harsh reality of that is sometimes you can get overlooked. Sometimes the entire existence of your company relies on being able to stand out for the right reasons and being able to get in the room with the people that you need to get into the room with, right? And you need to prove that credibility once you get in front of them. One thing to be mindful of is we don't really have, as designers or creatives, control over the vision and the action. That comes from within, that comes from the brand, that comes from the founder, it comes from leadership. However, what we do have control of is being intentional about these signals that we're giving out. And that is done through the likes of brand. It is done through the likes of consistency, storytelling, having that string, that constant thread through all of the different touch points, because we know that it is not linear when someone is discovering about your brand.
And I think people often overlook the signal piece, right? They think that if I'm not giving out positive signals, well, the worst case scenario is I'm giving out neutral signals, and it's not actually the case, right? More often than not, you're giving out negative signals, and it's actively impacting and jeopardizing your ability to cut through the noise, get in those, the right rooms, get the right conversations, stand out on the shelf, get that shelf space, whatever it might be. You're making things harder for yourself.
For sure, 100%. And, we've spoke with founders in the past that come from the camp of just focus on the tech and it will come, it will happen. And sadly, that isn't the case. We've spoke with those on the other side, or maybe formerly had that belief. And they're saying, well, people in our category have inferior technology to us, inferior products. They don't even work, but they're getting the funding because they've got the sexy renders, because they've got, this sexy brand. But it's not because they've got the sexy brand. It's because of the signal that communicates and the doors that then opens for them. So we've kind of seen both ends of the spectrum there, and we've had those conversations where it doesn't equate to good technology is credibility. Cool. So the next layer of this credibility picture that we did for Airhive was around 3D renders and animations to explain their technology, to show the art of the possible, what they're going to build. I guess this was especially important being in the industry that they're in. The DAC industry is somewhat, has a stigma around people saying they're going to do something and they don't. There's a lot of big claims being made. Airhive was in a position where they had lab scale pilots. They had some pre-commercial facilities being deployed as well, but we needed to build belief early on before they were fully deployed. So we actually worked with them to create a suite of technology or product renders which shown off their technology in a natural environment, as well as some abstract pieces as well. And this is part of how do you build belief in something before it exists yet, was one of the challenges that we had. And one of the beautiful things was this could be leveraged across all of those touch points, from websites to pitch decks, to meetings at their lab with prospective investors. One of the founders told me that they used to spend 5 to 10 minutes explaining something with words and they still wouldn't get it. Now they could play a 30-second animation and they would have no questions thereafter. It was just clear as day.
You know, it's cliche, but a picture paints 1,000 words. And as you alluded to, right, DAC is a sector that carries a lot of baggage, right? There is a lot of natural skepticism around it because of the big claims. And when you look at other industries as well, you look at the AI space, right? Naturally, there is skepticism, there is fear, even. You know, it's the unknown, right? So, how do we sort of combat that? How do we mitigate that feeling? And it's through this type of work here where you can help people to understand and resonate it in the best way possible. And more often than not, you'll get that aha moment and it just clicks. They get it. Now you don't need to explain. You can spend more time in your pitch, or you can spend more time, you know, in that sales call actually talking about the good stuff rather than being on the back foot and helping someone to understand when chances are they've already checked out because it's far too late in the game.
And for those that are wondering what this piece is down below, this is an abstraction of what happens inside their technology. They use a process called fluidization, which is essentially where particles, almost like sand, behave in a similar way to water. So this was just kind of like a nice abstraction we were able to use in the brand piece.
What up, everybody? Just wanted to take a couple of seconds out of this video to thank everybody for tuning in once again, for dropping us those subs, for coming to say hello in the comments. We read every single comment that comes through, and we are so happy to have you on this journey with us. So if you are new here, welcome. We are The Frontier, and we are showing everybody the messy middle, what it takes to build a design studio. We're showing all of the strategy, we're showing the works, we're showing the wins, we're showing the trapdoors that you should be avoiding. We just love being on this journey and creating content for fellow designers and ambitious future agency owners. So if you are new here, please do consider giving us that subscribe, ring that bell. Come say hello in the comments, connect with us on LinkedIn, and yes, thank you once again. So with that, back to the video, Riv.
Something else we did with Airhive was production work. So we worked with them on a few different production sets, one of them being this one, which was at their lab at Scale Space at the time. So we're able to go there, capture the culture, capture the vibes, capture the technology as well, to show that proof, right? Again, we need to earn the right to be able to tell that credibility story. And one way we can do that is with those visuals that are very real as well. Moving away from the 3D renders, which can perhaps show what the camera can't capture at the time, the camera is able to get the voice from the founder in there, a voice from some of the team and the leadership, is able to show the technology working and show that this is real and that they've made progress. So again, another piece that adds to that credibility story, and you can begin to see how slowly over time, Airhive has gone from this formerly scrappy, bootstrapped piece and brand through to something that feels really convincing, something that feels like it has a lot of traction, and something that feels exciting that people want to get involved with. You know, investors and prospective customers at this stage of a startup, they want to feel excited. They want to, or you need them to feel that FOMO. Like, if I don't hop on this opportunity now, someone else is, and they're going to be ahead of us. So that's what we're really trying to create here.
So Riv, we've seen a lot of faces here, right? We've got Rory, the founder there. We've got Teresa. Talk to me about the importance of, you know, the faces, the people behind the brand, the founder story, the personal brand that goes into building, you know, not just startups, but the actual brand in of itself, right? Why is that so important?
I think when you're so early in the game, you don't really have much of a brand to go off, right? We might create a brand identity and we're doing what we can to help the brand feel established, but it's really the founder and those like big voices within a team that really carries and propels an early startup at least further forwards. They perhaps have a rich network, and tapping into that, being able to tell your story in a really compelling way is what builds connection and helps to grow the brand, especially in the early days as well. And even as you reach scale as well, we see some of the biggest brands in the world today where the founder brand is so much more, or has so much more brand awareness than the actual commercial brand or company brand has as well. So we feel it's super important to capture that in an authentic way, and to get their why behind what they do. Why should we bet on you as a founder? Why are you the ones to solve this? One of the most challenging problems we have of our time. The story feeds into that, and Rory's got a really interesting one as well. Moving on from, I guess, the founder side and some of the kind of videos that we've done, the next piece of that was how do we get more distribution? And that kind of began with social media. Like, how do we make the most out of those big moments, whether it's kind of the launch of a new pilot, they've deployed some new technology, whether it's a new partnership or they've secured a new funding round as well. We needed to create those, again, consistency is key, those on-brand touch points in the form of social media. Here we're seeing like more kind of vertical reels or stories. But if we think about this could be LinkedIn announcements where we find a lot of our brands seem to build their name and build awareness. And having that professionalism, again, from, if you think about it now, pitch deck to website to investor materials, and then finally social media as well. Now, when they go through that journey and down that rabbit hole of discovery, they are not in for any surprises in the bad way, and they're just seeing like more credibility being stacked on top of one another. Again, even things like team headshots are really important. We made a habit of going down to Airhive pretty consistently because they were growing their team over time, and just making sure that we could have those consistent headshots. So it looks nice and clean. It looks super established. It fits in with the brand. And when they have those new team members come, it all looks consistent again. It shows that you're being intentional about how the company is presented, which I guess shows like knowledge of how to commercially position a company as well. Like, there's one thing being able to get the technology right, but being able to show as a founder or an early brand that you are intentional about how you show up, I believe signals a lot of things to prospective investors and customers alike.
And again, this is such a quick, easy win, isn't it, Riv? Like, people underestimate it. They go, yeah, we take some photos, we'll be fine. That shit matters, right? That's the consistency piece. Again, you might have the sexiest brand, the sexiest website. You scroll down to that team page, and if it looks like it's been shot with a potato, right? It's like, there's a little signal there of, I really wish that I could see them in their best light.
We also had the privilege to fly out to Alberta, Canada. Well, Matthew, you didn't, did you?
I didn't know. I had better things on, apparently. Yeah, my wife annoyingly... my wife annoyingly was giving birth to our twins, so I had to stay home. But, you got to live the life, didn't you?
Yes, yeah. It was a great time. It's really bloody cold, as you could tell from this image, though. Maybe we'll show some footage here from the shoot. But yeah, it was amazing to go out to the team there. We went out to Deep Sky to capture their first commercial pilot, which was a big deal. It is now operating, and there was no better way to capture the traction and the journey from, if you think back, those renders of showing what they're going to do. And now fast forward a year and a half down the line, they now have this thing built. We're going out there to show it in reality. We're then able to update all of those materials. We're able to talk about it in a new and different way. And we're able to show it in the realest way possible via video. What better signal of credibility is there than real life footage, right?
And again, I think people want to see the journey that you've been on as well, right? And I think you shouldn't hide the fact that, you used to be this scrappy bootstrap startup. Like, that's where everybody starts, right? Everyone starts in their garage with their best mate, and they're, trying to figure it out. And then I think it's something when you get to this moment and you see something that used to be in a lab, and now you've got this, huge installation halfway across the world. That's a real pinch me moment for the client, right? And indeed for us to be on that journey with them. So again, it's all come full circle, and to show the progression, the momentum that they have, and to show that this isn't just a pipe dream. We're building something that is going to change the way that industries go about operating, right, for future generations to come. That is a huge thing, and that's a feeling that can only be conveyed by bringing all of these pieces together. And dude, can I just say, what a privilege it's been to be on this journey with Airhive, man. Great guys, a great team, great technology, and, you know, a piece of work that frankly we're super proud of to this day, right?
Absolutely, yeah. It's been an absolute pleasure to work with these guys. We need to go for some lunch with them soon.
We do.
I guess all that to say, like, and touching on from what we've just said there, how much of a pleasure it was to work with them. All of this comes from a collaborative environment. It comes from listening to one another. It comes from standing shoulder to shoulder, looking at a problem, looking at an industry, looking at competitors and the opportunity at hand, and figuring out how can we tell the most compelling story that's really going to advance us forwards in a commercial manner.
Brand work, you know, is far more than just pushing pixels on a screen, right? It's this full picture of, you know, how we shape perception and help them to sell belief, right? So I think, you know, for any brand designers that might be looking at this, you know, and are thinking about the logos and the typography and the color palettes, like, yes, of course, that is super important, but let's think a little bit bigger. Let's think about how we introduce them to the world. Let's think about how people perceive them, their peers, their competitors, their customers. Let's think about that overall experience, and that is creating category defining brands.
Something I'd like to touch on, just to kind of wrap this up, is that the real test of a brand is how it performs in the real world. So as designers, we can get hooked up again on the typography, the colors, how something lives in a computer, on a screen. But really it depends about, like, what are the results, what happened thereafter. And I think that's why this is one of our favorite projects. It's one that's had time to bake. It's had time to breathe. It's had time to be out there in the real world. We can begin to see those results of the journey as a consequence and an implication of the work that we've done together. You know, these guys have gone from a team of, I think, 4 when we met them to a team of 30 plus. They've just acquired another company, which is absolutely huge. They are close to doing their Series A round, which is, again, another huge milestone. It's going to unlock some huge scalability potential for them to amplify the impacts that they have on the planet and on our world and on our future that we want to create. So that wraps up our video on credibility. Hope you found it super valuable. Again, if you are new here, glad to have you on this journey with us. There's going to be loads more coming in this series. So don't forget to subscribe, hit that bell, give us a thumbs up as well. And drop us a comment and say, hey, we never shy away from having a conversation with like-minded people. And with that one, we'll see you next time. Peace.
Peace.
Yeah. These are my memoirs. Light up a cigar, smoke up the memories as I sit and dust them off. Why do people say it's just to piss you off? Ignore them, no call button, and then dress too par. Now they can't test the guard.